What's up, family? It's your boy Daniel James II, and I'm your host right here on Black Voices on the Hill. Black Voices on the Hill is a podcast and radio show for the culture. We center Black lives, amplify Black stories, and enhance the Black experience at Cornell University, Greater Ithaca, and beyond. Black Voices on the Hill topics range from racism, police brutality, sexism, colorism, to Greek life leadership, and white elitism in the Ivy League. Black Voice on the Hill envisions a Cornell that's sensitive to the plight of its Black students, aware of the Black excellence in its college town, and unabashed about them changing the world. We see Black excellence at Cornell. We believe in Black empowerment, and we love the Black experience. Listen, Black Voice on the Hill is brought to you by WVBR News. To see when more new and upcoming episodes for other Cornell and Ithaca news, be sure to follow us at Black Voice on the Hill, at WVBR FM News on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can visit us at our website at wvbr.com/Black Voices. And be sure, after this episode, listen, today's episode, I'm sure you're going to want to leave us a review, a rating. Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple, Google, Overcast, or tune in right here on WVBR 93.5 FM every single week. Listen, I have in the studio today, I have a very, very special guest. I have none other than the man of the hour. I mean, this is really just a dream come true. I've watched him from afar, and now getting the opportunity to talk to him is amazing. I have the first Black man to, you know what? Let me start off saying something else. He's a Southerner. Yeah, first and foremost,
that's right.
Southerner. Yes, right. He is a new Truman Scholar too, as well. And you all know him for being the first Black man to have been elected president of Harvard's undergraduate student body. I have nothing other than Mr. Noah Harris. Say hey to the people, Noah.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's an amazing introduction. Yeah, really happy to be here with you and putting on for the South always. Yes, sir.
Always. You got to rep it all times, and I love it. I absolutely appreciate it. When I introduced you, I talked about, I said, first Black man to be president of Harvard student body. And it's really just interesting to think about the history of Harvard University. It's produced world-class leaders, like no doubt, literal presidents, diplomats, people that lead in every walk of life. But it also was a university that was founded on slave labor, that groomed prominent slaveholders in America.
Right.
And you being now president, having been elected president, the first Black man to be elected president of their undergraduate student body, it must feel, just in their 300 plus year history, to hold that office. What does it feel when I say that?
It's powerful, for sure. And sometimes I have to remind myself that is the reality, because if you would have told me that I'd be in that situation, I don't know that I would believe you, because, like you said, Harvard wasn't made for us, for Black people, for people from the South in general. It just wasn't. And so I didn't, as soon as 3-4 years ago, I didn't necessarily think it was for me. Because I had never experienced that. I never even seen anyone go to an Ivy League school. That just wasn't my experience. My mom went to Alcorn, HBCU. My dad went to Tougaloo, HBCU in Mississippi. Both of them ended up continuing their education at predominantly white institutions, in Georgia Tech and the University of Southern Mississippi, respectively. But it just really wasn't on my radar. And to be in this position, and have this kind of a platform that I've had, and the opportunities that I've had, and the blessings that I've had, it's surreal. And I think it will be until I'm actually out of the position. And so pretty much what I'm trying to do is make sure that while I am here, because it is such a short-term thing, it's only a calendar year, and I'm halfway through that now. How am I using this time? How am I using this moment? The energy that I can create and the people I can galvanize to be able to say that, okay, you didn't just make history, but you did something with that and you paved the way for others. And so I think that's my mindset right now. And when you say those words, that's what I remind myself daily that I have to keep working on.
Man, that's powerful. Not just being elected to the position, but doing something with it. I think that that's powerful, and being a man about action. And we're gonna talk about the action and platform because as soon as you got in office, from what I understand, you started moving, and I really appreciate that. And just your platform was absolutely amazing, and something we definitely didn't even probably know would need in the next year, and we'll get to talk about it. But I want to ask you first and foremost, how are you doing? I just want to do a mental health check-in, just sort of. I know that you're a busy guy. You said you're in New Jersey now, but you're originally from Mississippi, and I know that navigating the past year as a student has been difficult. As a student leader, I'm sure. So how is that? How have you managed that during COVID-19?
I mean, it's been tough. I think it's been a tough year, of course, for everyone. It's really encouraging to see the signs of light now with kind of the vaccines coming out and, you know, things are opening back up. Not having to wear masks as a vaccinated person is so encouraging. But yeah, I think you really just can't discount what we went through with kind of losing an entire year of our college experience and trying to put together what it was before, what parts do we want to carry with us from before, where do we want to kind of create new norms for ourselves in this kind of new world that we're entering. And I think it's just a big conversation because we have all these Zoom meetings, and Harvard was completely virtual. Was Cornell completely virtual? Or were they hybrid?
It was a hybrid model in the past
Hybrid.
year, but
Yeah.
mostly virtual. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, we just had no in-person component whatsoever. It was literally your 2 to 3 classes a day, all on Zoom, plus your meetings, plus your social events, plus your student government planning sessions, all Zoom all the time. So I think an average day on Zoom for me was about 10 to 12 hours. And so it's just a lot, and it really builds up. And so you really have to take a break, take time for yourself. I've been telling people, you just got to give yourself grace. And so especially during a tough time, you gotta take time for yourself during the day and kind of take a step back at some points. And so I think that's what always trying to do, taking care of yourself. I think it's a cool time right now. It's warming up. I'm right outside of New York. I'm in New Jersey, so being able to go out into the city is fun. And so yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying the last summer of undergrad, trying to enjoy all these moments because you don't get them back. And so that's just kind of my mindset right now, just kind of trying to be grateful for everything.
No, I totally agree with you about the sun. This is it's beautiful being in the north and not being, I'm always in the north when it's the ugliest. The
Right.
snow
Right.
is just the snowshoes and everything. And so now I feel right at home. I'm like, I really do like this. I like
They
the
give
weather.
us the worst months.
They always do. They got oh, especially January, February. It's like, it's disgusting.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I know that it's a lot like home right now. So speaking of home though, I told you I'm from South Carolina myself, and
Right.
uh and I know you are from Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Right.
And I know the great joys of living in the South. We just talked about weather. You got great food. You have,
The food
the
is great.
stuff. The food is awesome. Let me tell. I gotta ask you too about what are the foods you grew up on in Mississippi. But then, just the great joys, the beaches, the Southern hospitality, etc. Right? But we also like have a lot of issues that plague the Southern states. Um, just removed even from like politically, I would say when we talk about communities, I'm from a very rural community.
Mm.
when you talk about rural and impoverished communities in the South, it can be difficult to balance, like how to appreciate all the joy and also like understand that we are in a primed for change right now. I read a quote. You said that your hometown or home state was so giving oftentimes without being receiving anything in return, like too often. And they were like left behind or last, in last place. Tell us about what you meant by that and just in general about your upbringing in Mississippi.
Mm.
Mississippi. Yeah, those guys.
Cricket letter I. Yeah, yeah. But
Word.
yeah, I speak, you know, glowingly about my home, but I also, you have to recognize the things that are wrong with any place. I think people always kind of say, oh, the South is this, the South is that, the South is terrible. Everywhere is their problems.
Absolutely.
You have to respect. Some are a little bit more blatant than others, but I think we always have to take time to celebrate the good thing and work on the bad. And so, but I think growing up, like you said, black in the South, there's always this caveat that, but these things are wrong, even though these are great. There's food's good, weather's good, people are amazing, but we have to work on this, you know. And I think that's just part of it. And so I think particularly with the service, it's just always been clear to me that Mississippians and people in the South as well, but especially Mississippians, we give until we have nothing left to give. And it's reflected if you look up the states that give the most to charity. Mississippi is at the top, but if you look at um, how the poorest states, Mississippi is also at the top with respect to that. So that just doesn't add up, and it says something about how people take pride in lifting up other people, and how communities come together to build each other up. And that's kind of the spirit. It's community based, but you take care of people in your community. When there was a storm or a tornado or something or a hurricane, there wasn't any question about what we were doing that weekend if our house was okay. We were going out and we were helping somebody pick up the pieces and rebuild their life. And that's through the church, that's through community, that's built into the schools. It's wrapped within every fabric of the community to be thinking about other people and not necessarily about yourself. To not, I think it's a particularly Southern thing to play down your accomplishments and to just be humble all the time and to make sure that you know that every moment, every accomplishment is a blessing. You should appreciate it, but you should keep working, and then you should ensure that other people who aren't as fortunate, who aren't as blessed necessarily, still get your best effort. And so I think that's something that I've always thought about. I grew up in the Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout, and always knowing to do your good turn daily and living by the principles of leading while serving others and trying to leave every single place that you go better than you found it is something that is ingrained in me. And it's just how I'm wired. And so there's a problem here. Like, what does it take to fix it? What can I do? Is something that I'm always thinking about.
Yeah, you talked about a lot of good things there that I want to hit on. You talked about just in general thinking that somehow having confidence, I guess, about your accomplishments too. And this is something I think that a lot of Black listeners can relate to. It's not even about necessarily humbling yourself, but just being humbled. Like there's already something about our experience that is just as Black people in America that is so um, that can be so depraving sometimes that I think that having confidence about how much farther you've come, you've heard your mother say, which or your father or somebody in your family say you got to work twice as hard to just be
Right.
equal level playing field. I mean, and there are some aspects of that that can be detrimental to a child's upbringing, but there's very much truth to that in that
Mm.
it takes a lot to cross economic, racial barriers in this country when it comes to success, when it comes to access to elite institutions, access to education, access to resources, jobs, everything, every healthcare, every part and facet of our life. And there's no problem, when I see a black person, a Southern black person, especially, I think that I see the success and I already know, okay, I know this was not by happenstance. This was, nothing but for me, as a believer, the providence of God, but also like they put work with faith, and
Right.
it produced this amazing person and human. And you have a dynamic story. And so I think that nothing is, I don't think confidence um, is at, a crossroads, or it negates humility at all. I think that you can have both in the same space and still think more highly of others than you think of yourself. So,
Right.
um, so you play piano and violin growing up too, right?
That's right.
You still do? You still play?
Oh yes. So, well, I mean, I don't practice necessarily all the time, but there are songs here and there that I can still pick up and play. With the violin, I'm actually really tall. You wouldn't probably be able to know that over Zoom or over podcast, but I've actually kind of outgrown the full size violin,
Oh,
and so if I were to keep playing, I would have to get a really, really expensive custom size. Because if you're not familiar with violins, they increase in size based off of your arm length and height and and all that. And so they just go up in sizes. And when you get to the full size, there's really nothing after that. There's no extra large, and so and so you just gotta have to deal with it. But yeah, I think that's always a funny thing I'll tell people.
yeah, I know nothing about orchestra. I grew up in band. I played trombone, so you can pretty much play that size instrument. At least I think so. For most of my life, my instrument was as tall as I was. So if you can't tell over uh, over Zoom, I am not tall, but I think that yeah, that's really interesting, just to show that you're like multi-talented, and you grew up with a rich upbringing as well in that way. Speaking of like just multi-talented, man, you're not just a musician, you're not just a student leader, but you're also an author. Noah, like, I can tell you right now, freshman year of college, I was not thinking about what book I could publish, or especially not a children's book. Teachers were making us write books for their class, essentially, like all these papers, and all
Right,
these
right.
things. But you on top of all your schoolwork, you found time to write a book entitled Successville. Am I correct?
That's right.
So give us the basic premise of the book, how you came to write it, and how you finally got it published, and just who you were seeking to reach with that.
Yeah, so I never kind of went into that with the proposition that, hey, if I if I write a book, I'll be an author, and I don't really even see myself as this super accomplished writer or anything. Like I could write, for academic purposes or whatever else. But I'm not about to win some writing award or something. But
We
I
never know. We just don't know.
So it started as a community uplift project, particularly. I knew I was leaving the Hattiesburg area where I've lived my whole life. So many people have given so many things to to help me along. It certainly takes a village, and that entire village was just so loving and supportive of me. And so I knew that I was, of course, going far away, and so I wanted to kind of have a presence of giving back, and that kind of took the form of a children's book. And I didn't want it to be just any children's book, about some random story that that you just kind of put on the shelf at a library or read to a class when during story time or something. But I needed it to have the message that I could deliver, particularly to young people. And it's that if you work hard, set goals, and develop talents, you can do anything. It is out there. It is possible for you. And I think a lot of that stemmed from me kind of being at Harvard in this space that I didn't necessarily see myself or anyone before me, and realizing that there are some really talented people up here, yes, but it's mainly just a lot of people with drive and passion that are willing to work hard to achieve their goals. And I don't know if that was clear to me. I thought probably that I was just going to go up and meet some, the kids of some prince or the CEO of future CEO of something. There's always, or just some, some genius kids, and there are those people, but the greater majority of people, have a good story. They're talented, of course, but they're just hard workers, and they're movers and shakers and trying to do things that will change the world. And I think there are just so many people like that in our communities who just don't even apply and don't even give themselves an opportunity to have those experiences. I mean, the colleges in Mississippi and in the South are amazing, but it's just something, as you know, it's just something about the resources and the overflowing opportunities and options that going to schools like ours give someone, that I just didn't even, I thought I knew, but I just didn't know. Jobs come looking for you, and it's just, I want to give people the perspective that something like that, or even just basically anything where they achieve their full potential, is possible to them. So the premise of Successville is that if you do those things, hard work, goals, talents, you focus on your education, you can start giving yourself career options and early options from a young age, and basically saying that Successville is the place where you achieve your full potential. And everyone's Successville is great. It varies based off your background, your God-given abilities, your opportunities. But whether you're a lawyer, a social worker, a doctor, a teacher, a janitor, like your Successville, where you achieve your own version of success, that is an amazing future for you, and you can achieve that. And so just trying to be that encouragement that my parents were, that my family was, that my community was for me, for people who are less fortunate, who don't have some of those outlets.
Wow. Can you restate those things that equal success or lead to success? You said hard work. You said, say it again.
So work hard in school,
Yeah.
set goals, and
goals.
develop talents.
Develop talents. Man, I absolutely love that. And I think that that is, I don't even know how you sort of honed in on those principles, but it's powerful principles, because I was going to ask you how you would define success, because I just think about, and you sort of already got to it, but too often I think in America, which is of course like a capitalist country, I think that we do equalize success with more money than a person needs in 5 lifetimes, or having
Right,
wealth,
right.
even not even just that, but having wealth at other people's expense, exploitation. Not this about lifting a whole community. I've often said, me writing checks when I'm, wealthy one day or whatever, like back to my hometown that's largely, an impoverished area, it won't do anything if I haven't contributed to them in a way that provides like economic empowerment, right? And I guess I would just wonder, what would you say to a generation, or to our generation as well, that's like maybe very um, focused on, or focused or driven by money when it comes to success? What would you say to our generation concerning that?
Well, I don't know necessarily if I'd speak to the whole generation, but
Yeah, I guess so.
uh,
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, good.
I think there is something there about people feeling the need and people recognizing the importance of creating generational wealth. And I think that's something that's really important. And I think I think you should make money, if but I don't think that you should be unhappy just to make money. I think you should, of course everyone wants to make money, but I think you should try and get the most money out of what you love. And so I think where you think you can make a difference, where you can, that's the develop talents part. I think where you can, everyone doesn't have the same talents. And so while you might make 6 figures being a wealth manager, they may be really talented at that. And that may mean a lot of money by society's standards. But I think somebody, making a lot less money, who's making a difference, who's happy, is just as successful. And so, and also we've definitely seen it now. There are so many more ways to get paid now, and that are accessible to our generation. And so there are ways for you to do what you love, even if it's not what society says it's a high paying, high wage, high hour job necessarily. And, you can still have a 6-figure salary from things that are outside of your job, And so from everything from, I guess, the book culture to social media influencers to even motivational speaking will pay you really well. I think so. There are ways to use your talents to make money without necessarily going into finance and working on Wall Street and working like some of my friends right now, literally from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. being miserable to get a check. I don't think it's necessary.
That's a beautiful way to say it. I think that is one thing about our today, 2021, uh, the 21st century in general, is that because of tech and because of just globalization in general, like certain things that were inaccessible to a group of people are now accessible, like certain streams of income. Well, I mean, there are people that got podcasts and shows that are making, streams of revenue income. And I think that seeing that every single talent that you have is appropriate and is enough for you to live well and to do well for your family, I think that's really important and a good thing as well. So I'm in DC right now, interning, but you did that like quite early on in your life. I think you were in the United States Senate Youth Program, and what was it like doing that experience? And did it? I don't know, because now you did your own campaign, and so what was it like going into the political sphere prior to doing this? I get it's maybe a little different in terms of doing like a student body that's your whole peers, but I mean, just what was that experience like?
Yeah, I think it was an amazing experience doing the United States Senate Youth Program. I think that's an amazing opportunity. And if anyone out there is listening who's a high school junior or senior, you should apply to that program, because there is really just no program out there that provides high school students with such a perspective on our government and on public service and what public servants look like in the place where it happens the most, which is DC. Because I think we think of public servants and we're like, oh, the people who are president or senators, or the people we see on TV at night on the Sunday shows. And that's part of it. I think that's a big part of the outward facing of it, but you don't get to see the people at the State Department negotiating with other countries, and the people at NOAA, organizing around natural disasters. And the people who make our government work are amazing, and they do it amazing work, and literally every day. And being able to see that, it really kind of changes your perception around what public service is and how that looks. And so I think it's just an amazing opportunity. So basically every state picks 2 youth senators to represent them. Pete Buttigieg was in it. Chris Christie was in it. A few others, James Langford. I'm blanking on some of the other people, but some really cool people have done the program. And it's, first of all, $10,000 scholarship doesn't hurt. And then you get to do Washington Week, where you get to meet basically every major political official in DC. You get to meet a Supreme Court justice, the president, all the senators at a Senate reception. You get to go into a live session of Congress, which I had never done, even though I've been to DC quite a few times. We met the late great John Lewis in 2018, and so that's an invaluable experience. And it's happening every year. And I had the privilege of going back to speak virtually this year, and that program just doesn't stop. and so I really small plug for it, but it's an amazing experience. And I was able to meet so many great people, and I literally have someone I know in pretty much every state now. So many different friends from that, friends of friends, from networks from previous years and years after. So I think it's an amazing experience, and I don't think necessarily it had too much of an impact on my college campaign per se, other than impacting just how I see public service and the ability to help other people and what that looks like. In that way, I guess it did impact it. But transitioning to more of the college campaign, I think even we don't think of it as a popularity contest necessarily as we do in high school, but there is a certain large element still of those college campaigns that are basically popularity contests. And so pretty much everyone has the same or similar platform. Some people have better ideas than others, but at the end of the day, it's mainly about name recognition.
Wow. Well, I will say this then. You definitely transformed the parts of it that are, basically popularity based, but you used it for good, definite good, and definitely gave a unique platform that ultimately got you elected. Let's talk about, because I gave you sort of like a mental health check in at the beginning, right? But from my understanding, mental health was a part of the campaign that you ran as well, addressing mental health. I know that for uh, students of, and you're continuing to work on things such as anti-racism, sexual assault. These are all like very laudable goals, right? What made you think uh, that you could run for president of Harvard's undergraduate student body of 20,000 plus people? I mean, there weren't like, some people promise like I'm going to put soda machines in every single building on campus. Like there's gonna, those are very, you know,
Promises they can't keep, huh?
oh
Yeah,
man, promises you
yeah.
can't keep, but you made promises that are that actually move students and that they would be moved by. So what made you think that first of all you could run for 20,000 plus people? Cornell just had elected our first Black woman to the Cornell Student
That's
Assembly as well.
that's
So
all.
and then how have you seen your platform live out or become real in your community in Harvard?
Mm. Yeah. Well, actually, it's only about 6,600 people.
Okay,
I think the 20,000 number is probably including the graduate school,
cool.
but still a lot of people. That's quite a few people, and so I think mainly for me, it was about being realistic. I think that's what the moment called for, especially as we were in the middle of the pandemic and still just ongoing, because you have to think about what the moment calls for, what people need. And when we were virtual and not even on campus, I don't think there was much of the I'm gonna. People were taking it seriously. I think people were not saying, "Oh, we're gonna make this free, and we're gonna bring you this, and we're gonna deliver." I don't know, some fast food restaurant food to the dining hall every day, because
Dream.
that's just not going to happen. We can dream, right? But I think the way that we've been able to kind of transform how student government works at Harvard, I don't think people necessarily appreciate that now, but when I think they kind of look back on this time and how student government has changed to be more receptive to student actual needs, I think they'll look back on it pretty favorably, because we've been able to negotiate partnerships with companies and leverage the Harvard name to get companies to give us things at a discounted price, even though we do have a significant budget. We've been able to use those things to basically we negotiated an entire partnership with Harvard University, which is a much larger entity than just the undergraduate council, with Lyft, and be able to basically put us on track for more efficient transportation, non-emergency transport systems, getting people to their doctor's appointments, to get vaccinations, to be able to put us on a plan to get lift scooters around the university. Lyft owns blue bikes, get more blue bike stations. And so things that affect people's daily lives, like tangible things, for years we've started to just kind of plant our stake in that with Headspace, creating a partnership with them, not a partnership with the university, but creating a year-long situation where 1,200 students could access their mindfulness and meditation resources at a time where people during the pandemic really needed resources that they could tap into, especially while the Harvard mental health resources were trying to transition to being online. I think that was a time where people really needed that. And, just working with companies and just kind of seeing where opportunities are, where we can provide things for students, I think is a really cool thing. As well as diversity and inclusion initiatives, fighting for a multicultural center, making significant progress on that, allowing students to advocate for, and kind of giving them a platform to advocate for everything that they care about, making student government a lot more advocacy based, but not leading from in front, making our own kind of political choices, but leading from behind, creating a caucus system, Black caucus, Latinx caucus, Asian American caucus, first gen low income caucus, to be able to come in and allow people to use our platform, use our voice and our institutional reach within the administration to vote on legislation, pass petitions, and put things in the student newspaper, put them out wherever they want. I think, we endorsed a suit where a student group sued Harvard for basically to the Mass Attorney General, but for basically kind of disturbing the best interest of the environment with their investments in climate change, and well, not in climate change, their investments in fossil fuels. Forgive me. And so things like that, and giving people a voice, kind of, and using our resources to be able to get their voice out there. I think students have really been receptive to that.
Man, so much more work can be done through coalition building. That's what I hear through your story as well.
That's right.
And I think that we definitely have to understand that we work together. The greatest type of leaders are, you said, not those who necessarily lead from in front, but from behind. I think that also there's like not, I think that the best leaders are also those who lead from below and not from above. In other words, it's taking a servant's posture as well. So I absolutely love that. Why though, like mental health? Because there is a stigma around mental health, and also, and especially when it comes for people of color, and then specifically for Black people as well, because it's Black Voice on the Hill. And I know from my campus, we've had to function through like a lot of trauma, whether that's like student death, whether that's through, just the George Floyd, murder, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Rashard Brooks, who, like there's so many different, things that we have to function through and still be a Cornell student. Meanwhile, we're fighting, institutional injustice. We had a whole, undergraduate student debacle this past year with our council or assembly. And it's just a lot to function through and then not have the necessary mental health infrastructure. So why address it despite the stigma,
Well, I think the stigma is exactly why we should address it. And having this sense that, especially Black people and people of color, mental health is not like a legitimate thing for them. I think we're finally starting to get out of that as a society. I think the pandemic really sped that up for a number of reasons. But I think we have to get out of the sense that, we just have to be so strong all the time, because we go through, there's a lot of Black trauma. It's everywhere. You look on the internet right now, and there will literally be something. And so it's a lot to go through, and it's a lot to bear. And we've been bearing it in this country since the onset of slavery. And we will continue to bear it. And so I think you have to destigmatize mental health for the purposes of just being well and just being a people who can be happy. And I think being from the South, and you can relate to this, I think we always say that, oh, just go to church, just pray. And I think that is a significant part of it, asking God for peace of mind and to kind of casting your anxiety onto him. I think that's everything. But also we have to be real about mental illnesses and the real problems that people have. You know, when if you have the flu, of course you're going to pray that you know God heals you, or if you have some other disorder or disease, you're going to pray for being healed, but you're also going to go get that treatment, right? And so I think there we have to do the same thing with mental health. We have to go and make sure that we are treated for these legitimate um, mental health situations that we have, and we have to make sure that we're conscious about it and that we're speaking up about it so that we can destigmatize it. This past semester, we with Arts with Impact, we had a movies for mental health event where we basically had an instructor kind of come in and guide us through a number of mental health exercises for kind of a group counseling session, and being able to have they ingrained it in the community. So we found students of color talk about their mental health journeys and certain problems that they've had where they needed to have medication, where they thought that they were okay and they thought they would make it, and their parents, especially have immigrant parents, they were saying, oh, we went through a lot more, just get through it. But I don't think we have to live like that anymore, and so I think that the more we can destigmatize, the more we can get the word out, the more we can say it's okay to not be okay, the better off we'll be.
It's okay to say we're not okay. I absolutely love it. There's so much there. I think that too often, especially, I think the stigma also, like, some of the fruit of that a lot of times will be us just calling, oh, she just crazy. Right. They just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And even,
Mm-hmm.
other insensitive words I've heard used towards
Right.
mental illness, friends in school, it's sort of light, but I think taking it seriously, like, it brings about serious solutions as well. And then not seeing prayer as a band-aid, but um, I don't know, maybe as more of like an antibody. Like, if even if something tries to attack your life, you have the power and the strength to stand and defend against it. And I think that doesn't mean you won't seek natural help, And I love this new movement where you say, I can love Jesus and go see a therapist too. Like, those are not
Right.
at fault.
Right.
Brought with each other. So I think that's very powerful that you brought that up as well. So Noah, this is one of my last question I really have for you. Like, what's next? Because of course, well, you sort of already have piece of that
Yeah.
figured out. Like,
Yeah.
you going to grad school, like, you just don't know. So, like, but what's next?
I think it's $1 million question, honestly.
Mhm.
I'm applying to law school right now. I've been working on that process since the beginning of the virus, pretty much January of 2020. And so when people are saying, "Oh, I picked up hobbies during quarantine," I picked up the LSAT, I picked up
Oh,
student
wow.
government, and so I had stuff to do, and so that process is winding down. So that's a blessing in itself. And so I think law school, of course, is next for me, becoming an attorney. I think there's a lot of great work to be done in Mississippi. There's a lot of opportunity at home. And so, with particularly restoring voting rights to incarcerated people, getting health care for 200,000 people, there's so many things that are to be done, reforming the criminal justice system, fighting for voting rights. I think you'll see me advocating for our people. I think that is what is next for me, and what I hope to never stop doing.
Man, I absolutely believe you're gonna do it. And I don't know if you're gonna be, uh, President Harris or another VP Harris. I don't know. But I'm just looking very forward to seeing what you do. with your life and with this great platform you've worked so hard for. It is really inspiring to see people from the South, from places like where I'm from, just do well and succeed. And man, we look up to you. Know we really, really do. Are there any like shout outs you want to give to any people back home or anything like that at Harvard or whatever? Any last words?
Yeah, just I mean, shout out to the class of 2020 and 2021 who just
Mhm.
really went through it with the end of their senior years, especially wrapping up their Harvard experience during the pandemic. Looking forward to an in person year, and we need it. I think it's time, and I'm excited for it. And we're getting this fall we will open the 40th undergraduate council, and I think that is just a really cool thing to be there and be leading this really great group of leaders and people ready to do something, with this opportunity that we have, kind of moving into this new Harvard and this opportunity to reimagine this place for generations to come. And so, you know, every day is an opportunity, and I'm excited for it. And really appreciate you having me. You got a great radio voice. Did anybody ever tell you that? It's really nice. It's
I
smooth.
heard, I heard that yesterday, man. I get tired of it because I feel like I'm just, I'm too jittery. I'm too nervous all the time. I have a nice voice, but I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But thank you so much, Noah. I appreciate you for this. Have you ever seen In the Heat of the Night?
I haven't. I haven't. No.
That would be a good show to watch. It's set in Mississippi. I meant to tell you that, but I think you should watch it. It's really, really good.
Always looking for a good Mississippi show, so I'll have to look
Absolutely.
it up.
Please do. Please do. It's really good. Listen, thank y'all so much for tuning in today. I hope that y'all are tuning now and more engaged than ever to vote. Not to vote, Lord. Well, yes, to tell your congressperson, call your congressperson for Juneteenth and tell them to make sure that they vote to pass the For the People Act. The John Lewis, make sure they continue to support the voting rights legislation because there are a lot of crazy states right now that are trying to do some weird things when it comes to voting rights and maligning people's access to voting in the future. So make sure you do that. But be unapologetically black, my people, as well, and make sure that and happy Juneteenth as well. What you doing for Juneteenth, Noah?
Well, I have the great opportunity to be in New York for this holiday. So I believe there's a festival in Harlem on Saturday,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. It's I believe President Biden, it's in his hands to sign that into law. That'll be a national holiday,
That's right.
and that'll be cool if it happens. I don't know really how that works, if it has to start next year or if it starts literally Saturday, but I'm looking forward to a holiday where we celebrate the freedom of Black people. Yeah, that'll be beautiful.
It will be beautiful, and I'll be here in DC. So it's gonna be just
Right, right.
fireworks, man, just fireworks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, probably two best places for it, honestly, other
Tell
than Galveston. Yeah.
other than Galveston, absolutely. Listen, to see when more new and upcoming episodes of Black Voice on the Hill, Cornell, and Ithaca News, be sure to follow Black Voices on the Hill on Instagram. Where can they follow you, Noah?
On Instagram and Twitter at Noah 10 Harris. Yeah, and Successville available online anywhere books are sold.
Awesome, man. And be sure to follow all those on Instagram. Be sure to follow WVBR FM News on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Visit us at our website again at wvbr.com/Black Voices. Subscribe on all podcast platforms, y'all. You can tell Alexa you want to hear Black Voices on the Hill. Be sure to tune in at wvbr.com, 93.5 FM every Friday at 2 p.m. The episodes air weekly and they release on podcast platforms on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. We'll see you next week. Shout out to my executive producers, Mike Seitz and Grace Fairchild. Peace out, family.